So now we're going to look at the first cause of debasement. We said that there was 3 causes of debasement. One is just increased production, one is by advancement in technologies, and one is by the state. So the first one is by increased production. So what does that mean? How can our money be debased by an increase in production? Well, whenever we use something as money, people are going to want to produce more of it because there's power in that. It gives you a claim on the total productive capacity available. So you would want to produce more of it. So for example, if we're looking at a time where gold was used as money, and if we have an imaginary scenario where there is 500 ounces of gold in the money supply, so that's gold above ground that's used as money, and you have a specific amount of productive capacity in the world, then somebody might want to go and extract more gold, mine more gold from the Earth's crust. So that's an increase in production. We're producing more of it. If we're using cowrie shells, somebody's gonna walk to the coast and get more shells. If we're using glass beads, somebody's gonna produce more glass beads. Whenever we're using something as money, different actors will want to produce more of that money. And just people are gonna want to produce more of it. So in this situation, somebody might, look around and say, okay, well, I can probably mine some gold here that's close by, and it's going to be economically viable. What does it mean? It means that there's a cost to mine this gold. And maybe there's 10 ounces here, and the cost to mine these 10 ounces is going to be 9 ounces. So the person has to hire some people, get some equipment, go there, extract, and go through the whole process. And then in the end, he's able to extract 10 ounces. And if that person does that and extracts, let's say this is 10 ounces, then the money supply is going to grow by 10. And he would have made 1 ounce for himself. He would have paid 9 ounces in equipment and in salaries. So the money supply would grow by 10. Now, why would he not mine all of it? Because the rest of it is too expensive. So maybe this 10 ounces here was going to cost him 11 ounces of gold to mine. So it would cost him 11 ounces to pay people, get the equipment, because this is deeper in the Earth's crust or further away, that it wouldn't be economically viable. So he's not going to mine these. He's only going to mine what's the most economically viable to mine. But what's going to happen is we're going to become more productive. And as we become more productive, all of a sudden, we produce more things. There's more workers, there's more horses, there's more apples, there's more tools. And what happens when there's more goods and services for the same amount of money? Well, they become cheaper, right? Because it's the same amount of money, but there's more things. So then each unit of money can get you more things. In the same way, when there was more money, but the same quantity of things, things became more expensive. Now, when there's the same amount of units, but more things, things become less expensive. So now things are a little bit less expensive. And these 11 ounces of gold these 10 ounces of gold might only cost him 9 ounces to mine again. So again, here it becomes, before it used to cost him 11 ounces, but now that we're more productive, it's only going to cost him 9 ounces again. So again, it's going to become economically viable and he's going to go mine them. And the same thing is going to happen. So there's this balance when we're using a commodity as money, where we can only produce a little bit of it each year. And as we become more productive and we have more things and things become cheaper, then it's viable to mine a little bit more. And as we mine more and we have more money, then things become a little bit more expensive and we can't mine more. So it's like this balance. And gold has been one of these monies that is the hardest to produce more of compared to other commodities. And that's why it won over a lot of other forms of money. Because if you have two forms of money competing and one of them is harder to produce more of, that's the one you would want to use because you want the least amount of debasement possible. You want to store as much value as you can in your money. You don't want to lose that value. You don't want to lose that claim. So it's just something natural that happens. Now, when we're looking at commodities money, there's a function called the stock to flow that's often used. And this function is basically, it calculates the total stock divided by the annual production. So for example, what would be the stock to flow here? Well, let's open a calculator. So the stock to flow would be the total money supply. So it was 500, right? We had 500 ounces and we produced 10 ounces in that year. So divided by 10. So the stock to flow would be 50, meaning there's 50 times more supply that we're using as money than there is of new supply coming in. So that's a lot, meaning that new supply isn't impacting the current supply by much. But let's say if we only had, let's say, 20 ounces of gold, and this year we found 10 ounces, that means the stock to flow would have been 2. That means we only had 2 times more supply than the new supply that's coming in. It's not good. So you want the highest stock to flow when we're using something as money. And gold has had a stock to flow of about 66 times on average historically, and it's been very stable. So sometimes we get a little bit more gold, sometimes we don't get as much, but on average, we've been getting 1.5% more gold every year. So every year, since a very long time that we've been mining gold, we've only been able to mine about 1.5% each year. So the money supply has been growing by 1.5% each year. So when we calculate the total amount of gold divided by the new gold that's coming in, the stock to flow gives us 66 on average. So we have 66 times more gold than new gold coming in. And that's why gold was one of the best forms of money. Because even though it was being debased by a little bit every year, our productivity was growing at a faster or at a close enough pace that you didn't feel it. Now, obviously, we would want the money that isn't debased at all, but that doesn't really exist with commodities money, because any money that you're going to be using, people are going to want to produce it. So there is a cost for having a form of money. There's no money that has zero cost in maintaining. And if we're using gold or any other commodity, there is going to be this cost. And there's also this cost of, these people that are going to mine for it, that's lost productivity for society. Like these people that are going to produce more gold, well, it would have been better if they're just producing more goods and services that we used, instead of going to do this, which doesn't help society in any way. But that's a cost of money production. And anywhere where there's money, there's going to be this cost. If you even look at the example we talked about with the game Diablo 2, even in that example, you can see how it works. Let's say I'm playing this game and there's this staff that I really want. And I look at the price of the staff, and that staff is going to cost me 3 sojas, 3 Stone of Jordans. I might go and farm or mine to get that 3 Stone of Jordans, and it's going to take me 120 hours of work to get that staff. But I'm not going to be the only one. So I'm increasing the production. I'm increasing the money supply of Stone of Jordans in the game. And you can read about this. There was actually so many Stones of Jordans because so many people were farming for them. But then as so many people farm for them and there's more Stone of Jordans, there's more money supply, then all of a sudden the price of the staff is going to be more expensive because there's more monetary units chasing the same amount of goods available. So now it's going to cost 4 Stone of Jordans at one point. So if I want that staff and I look and it's 4 Stones of Jordans, now I don't have the incentives to go farm for that item. Instead, I'll just go play the game and get more items. So then there's more productivity, more goods. And as there's more of that, the prices of these items will go down again. And then I will have the incentive again to go and get more Stones of Jordan. So there's this balance when you have a commodity money where you're going to mine for the commodity and increase the production, but it's balanced because often the work required to produce more units of money is going to be higher than the work required to just produce goods and services in the economy. So whenever you have a commodity money that you're using, as a user, you always have the option. Do I go and try to create more units of this money? Or do I go and just work in the economy and produce more goods and services? And often this is going to be the best value because as soon as it's economical to produce more units, somebody's going to do it. So the margins are going to be really thin on it. And the margins is all that person is going to keep, right? So it's not all the units produced that they've created out of thin air. There was work required to produce them. And the work is going to be very close to the value that is extracted. So in this situation, increased production, yes, it does cause debasement, but it's actually the least impactful type of debasement. It's not the debasement that destroys money. Why? Because it's a slow debasement. It's a little bit. Because to start off, we would never have chosen a money that can be debased by a lot. You remember when we talked about how money emerges, and the first criteria is that it stores value, that it requires a lot of work to produce. If something doesn't require a lot of work to produce, it wouldn't even have been chosen as money. People wouldn't have used it. So people have always gravitated to something that requires a lot of work to produce, so that will have a high stock to flow. So even when there is an increased production, that increased production is not too high and it doesn't cause that much of an issue. Do we wish we didn't have it? Sure, but it's a cost of using a form of money, and it's the least bad type of debasement. The next form of debasement we're going to look at is the one caused by technology, or by advancements in technology, or introductions of new forms of technology. So how can technology debase money? Well, that's easy. If you find a new form of technology that enables you to mass produce the form of money you're using, then that money is going to be debased. So this has happened often throughout history, where a new form of technology enables the society, your own society, to mass produce the form of money you're using, or a different society coming in that has better technology and them mass producing the form of money you're using. For example, if we look at cowrie shells, when Europeans came to Africa and some countries in Asia, like India, and these European traders realized that, hey, in these societies, people are using cowrie shells. And they're placing a lot of value in these shells. While these shells aren't valuable at all, right? Like, we can mass produce them. We have the technology, we have these big boats, and we can just go and get a lot of cowrie shells. But these people, they can't mass produce our gold. So when you have two societies that collide, the society that can produce easily the money of the other society can extract all the value from that society. For example, Europeans came in. We'll give an example of India. They saw all the riches that this country has, and they saw the form of money they're using. And they realized, well, we can just mass produce this form of money. We can get a lot of shells for cheap, and we can just buy all the things from them. And that's what they did. They mass produced shells with their more advanced technology. They came in and they bought up everything. They even bought gold that Indians had because they didn't value gold highly, and they valued shells highly. So they came in with these shells and they bought up everything. Now, if you were a user of these shells, you wouldn't have noticed that there's more shells initially. You would just notice that, hey, the prices of things are going up. Because these Europeans are buying everything at the regular prices that haven't reflected that new amount of money. And then all of a sudden, you start realizing that, hey, prices are going up. And by the time you realize there's so many shells that your shells aren't valuable enough to buy anything. Prices are up and it's too late. And that's what happened with cowrie shells. That's how cowrie shells died. Europeans came in, flooded the market with cowrie shells, bought up everything, and nobody wanted to use shells anymore because they saw that they had no more value. And that's how technology debases money. Now, it happened in a lot of with a lot of other commodity monies. Glass beads, for example, that were used in Africa. Same thing. Europeans came, saw that some of these countries were using glass beads. They had the technology to mass produce these glass beads. They had the factories and everything necessary to create an enormous amount of glass beads for very cheap. They went to Africa and they extracted all the wealth from the countries that were using these glass beads until those glass beads were demonetized and people stopped using them because they saw that they didn't hold their value anymore. Same thing with salt. Salt used to be hard to produce. Finding salt mines, extracting the salt, refining it. It's a long process. And through advancement in technology, that process became very easy. And when that happened, salt became demonetized and it wasn't used as money anymore. Now, in all of these situations, what do people then end up doing? Well, they use the other available form of money, the best form of money that's available, and that ended up being gold and silver. So in these societies, their form of money died because an advancement or a society that had more advanced technology was able to mass produce them. And that society was able to extract all the wealth from the users. Now, once your form of money dies, then you just adopt the best form of money available, which was the form of money that these people were using, which was gold. Now, Another form of money we're going to look at that was debased by technology is the Stone of Jordans from the video game we've been talking about. So how was this item demonetized? Well, from technology once again. There was a patch, I believe 1.09, that came out. And after that patch, some people figured out a way to duplicate items, specific items, so they can dupe them. So they can create an infinite amount of them. And that's what people started doing. They started duplicating the Stone of Jordan. And the market was flooded with this item. And because it was flooded, then people didn't want to accept it anymore. Now, this is a very unique scenario because it's in-game. So what did people do? Did they stop playing the game? Because it's just a game. You can just go play another game. Did they wait until the developers fixed this issue? No. They just adopted another form of money. They found an item that couldn't be duplicated, that had all the properties of money, and they adopted that. And that's what people really do. They always need the best form of money available. And if the form of money they're using loses that most important property of requiring work to produce, if it loses that, it stops being money. And they have to find another form of money that has all these properties, the best one available. And throughout history, this has happened. Technological advancements are dangerous for any type of commodity money because they can break the stock to flow ratio of that money. They can break the money by increasing the money supply at a very fast rate. And if that happens, that money dies. And as a user, you have to adopt something else.